Hey everybody, how's it going? Falconashe here. I'm going to be continuing doing my 110 top board games that I've owned and played, starting with 89 and going on to 51. It's going to be Warp Speed. So here we go. 89. It's going to be Spell Smashers. Spell Smashers, you're going to be using cards to make spells to destroy monsters. Depending on the damage that you're doing, you're collecting coins from that monster. If you've finished destroying that monster, you get that monster piece as your own letter, and then you can use that letter to form other words as well. I give it a 7. Board Game Geek gives it a 5.667. 88. 88 is Palm Island. This is a game that you're collecting your resources by shifting cards in your hand and using those resources to build other buildings, trading with yourself to make other cards. It's a very cool game. You can only play it in the palm of your hand. Palm Island, which also means palm tree. So at the end of 8 rounds, you are going to add up how many points you get, how many stars you have, and then consult a card chart. And you can play with 2 players as well. Both of you are working as well to complete each other's islands to see how many points you get. I give it a 7. Board Game Geek gives it a 6.425. Tiny Epic Kingdoms. This is 87. Tiny Epic Kingdoms, this is the first edition. And Tiny Epic Kingdoms, you're using your meeples to take over areas, gathering resources, and trying to get more points than your opponent. If you're playing 2 players, you're going to use a third point of origin and put an AI meeple center on. You're going to go to war. You're rolling dice to go to war with other players, and you're putting how many resources you're going to put out in that war. And whoever puts the most out wins. You can also call for a ceasefire kind of thing. So if you both ceasefire, that's pretty cool. This is part of the Tiny Epic series as well. I give it a 7. Board Game Geek gives it a 6.410. Kokoro, Avenue of the Kadama. This is 86. You are flipping cards and writing on a grid, connecting flowers and caterpillars from one side of the board to the other, also trying to connect them with other sanctuaries that are flipped over in the beginning of the turn. Deck of cards randomly determines what roads are being drawn. Drawing roads together as well helps out with scoring. If you get 4 gold cards, then that is the end of a round, and you score for the sanctuary that was flipped in the beginning of the turn. It's a pretty good game that I introduced to my mother-in-law, and she likes it, and she wants to keep playing it. So that's good. I give it a 7. Yeah, this is all my 7s. 6.160 on Board Game Geek. Next is Hokkaido. Hokkaido is 85. I played this once at the board game meetup group, and you are laying down tiles in an area, kind of a drafting type mechanism, where the tiles are laid out, but depending on where you draft them, you can also place them together in a grid, kind of like what's it called? Oh, Sprawlopolis, which I'll name later, as spoilers, um, and Circle Your Wagons, and you are adding up your locations, like if you connect all cities, tiles, and stuff like that. There's also resources that you're going to use to build other things. Yep, that is a terrible, terrible description of that game. I give it a 7. Board Game Geek gives it a 5.812. Next, 84. This is a fantastic game that's going up in my ranks. I've played it 7 times so far. Few of them solo, because I'm really getting into the gist of the way the turns go. There are up to 8 different things you're doing on your turn, either solo or cooperatively. This handles 1 to 4 players, I believe. It probably handles more. But Lord of the Rings, the card game. This is also known as Lord of the Rings, the LCG. And I've described it on one of my other games that I prefer. You are going down an adventure path, flipping cards over, encountering different things, and you have your own deck of cards that have 1 to 3 heroes, depending on their attributes, leadership or wisdom or tactics. You're building your deck up to 60 cards and trying to use the resources per turn that you're getting from each hero and purchasing cards, or putting cards out in the field to balance out the encounter. There's a threat track that you have to keep tracking of keep track of your threat track counter. So if you reach 50, you lose the game. You are trying to put people on quests to go to locations, and I want to keep playing it. My friend, he's getting into it, but he has to. I think if he plays it more, he's going to get really into it. Thematically, I can think of myself playing the game, or playing as what the scenario is at the time, or the adventure, or the quest, and really getting into it. It's phenomenal. I give it an 8. Board Game Geek gives it a 7.414. 83. Eminent Domain. Eminent Domain is a deck building game where you're there's stacks of cards on different locations on a board, and if I draft a card, the opponent can also, whoever I'm playing against, can do the lesser of the action on those cards. If you get a combination of different cards together, you're performing that action even better. So that's pretty cool. You are taking over planets, either politically or hiring warships to attack the planet and enslave it. It's fantastic. Fantastic. Oh, it's fantastic. It's a great game. I give it an 8. Board Game Geek gives it a 6.878. Next on the list is a Kickstarter that I backed. This is back in 2014. At 82. District Z. The full name is escaping me. There it is. This game, when I saw it, Rubio was just talking it up. Rubio Games. And so you are putting a grid on the field, such as you would with Memory, and then you are choosing a hero, and you're trying to make it through the city alive. You have to grab at least one item along the way, depending on how many people are playing with. You're going to each have a different item and place it down in the field somewhere by shuffling it in with a bunch of other cards and placing it on the field. You can arrange the tiles or cards any way you want to form a city, just not like a straight row, as long as there's two tiles or two cards in a row. Grab that one equipment card or item card and then make it onto the other side. So you choose one side of the city you're going to start with, you choose the second side of the city you're going to end. You are rolling dice for zombies. If you're playing multiple players, you are having them roll your dice. So say if you encounter a card and it says roll a single-sided die, well, roll a six-sider. You roll that, look at the card. If it's zombies and it says two zombies, the person that you're playing against will roll that many red dice, and you are rolling that number of black dice based on if you're escaping or if you're using combat value of your hero. And if you get higher numbers than the dice that are being rolled by the zombie, you beat them, and then you will go into combat again if there's any left. It's a fantastic game. I like playing this game. I've played it over 10 times, mainly solo too, but there's so many different characters, especially having the Kickstarters had multiple different characters. There's weapons you're going to find along the way, weapon ammunition, but you can use weapon ammunition you use for weapons that have like bullets. That makes sense. You can't use them for baseball bats and stuff like that. I believe you can have up to 4 weapons, but you're only using 1 per turn, and some of the weapons will break along the way after combat situations. I give it an 8. Board Game Geek gives it a 5.536. 81. King of Tokyo. This is a must for everybody's library. You are playing as giant kaiju or giant monsters in the city of Tokyo. You have a counter that will keep track of the stars or the victory points that you're trying to get along the way. If you get 20 victory points, you win. And then the second track that's being scored is your health. If you reach 0 health, you're pretty much knocked out. And I believe you can spend so many energy points or something of that nature, and you can revitalize yourself. You are rolling dice in the zombie as a Yahtzee style. Claws will do damage to your foes. Hearts will heal you up, but not if you're in Tokyo. Numbers will give you victory points if you add them up. If you have 3 or more, based on the number that's rolled, will give you that many victory points. And then there's energy, and if you store up the energy, you get little, green chits or cubes, and you are going to spend those, and you can have power-ups from a deck of cards that are played out to give your your kaiju monster better powers, so you can fight better. I give it a 8. Board Game Geek gives it a 7.141. It's a family game. Go out and get it. Number 80, Zombies, with triple exclamation points at the end. This is a Twilight Creations game. And I've had this for a long time. So you are laying tiles out to form a city. As you explore the city, there are going to be zombies that show up. There's going to be weapons. There's going to be health packs that show up. Well, hearts that will contribute into your health. You are rolling dice to battle zombies that you meet up with, and you can use the hearts or bullets to change the value of your dice or re-roll dice. And the first person to find the helicopter pad gets out alive. If any time you die, you lose the half of the zombies that you have. Other victory condition is if you get 25 or more zombies. It's a fantastic game. It's very generic, but at the same time, it's really fun. It's up there with District Z for zombie games. You'll see some more zombie games along the way. I have almost at least 6 or 7 expansions for this game. I also wrote a scenario for it and uploaded it to the website. I give it an 8. Board Game Geek gives it a 5.653. Munchkin Zombies, number 79. This is a game that I've combined with other Munchkin games before, but I prefer it with Space Munchkin. So, Munchkin, game that you're going to see later on my list. You are playing through decks of cards, one being the doors that you're knocking down and seeing if there's monsters, defeating the monsters, and collecting treasure. You are slowly leveling up your hero or going up a tower. It depends on how you want to look at it. And the first person to reach level 10 wins. The backside of this game is that you're playing other players. It's better with 3, and they are actually using cards to either make the monster stronger, so you don't get stronger faster, or you can also team up with other players to stop the monsters, and then you're going to barter and say, hey, I'm going to give you some treasure if you help me out with this. I've mentioned this on another list of things that people should have for games. And I give it an 8. Board Game Geek gives it a 5.939. Number 78. It's going to be Munchkin. See above. Okay, I give this an 8. And then Board Game Geek gives it a 5.752. Number 77. This is a Kickstarter that I backed. It's Mint Tin Mini Apocalypse. And you have a small mint container with meeples and white cubes representing resources, crates that have food and other supplies in it, and you are rolling dice. Getting 7s will allow you to stand up your meeples, or get 2 meeples standing up, and then you can use 2 meeples to drag the resources or the food crates into the mint tin, and the first person to get most of their most of their meeples into the mint tin as the fallout shelter will actually close it before the music stops, if you want to play music, which is pretty cool, that you can download with the game, and play that in the background while you're playing to give you a better feel or a feel of what's going on with sirens and other creature sounds happening in the background. With the expansion, it had a manhole cover where you can use it to knock down the monster meeple, or you can use it to pry open the fallout shelter to try to get your meeples in there. The person with the most meeples, like I said, in the fallout shelter wins the game. I've played this multiple times. Of course I've played it multiple times. That's on my board game games that I've played. I give it an 8. Board Game Geek gives it a 5.682. 76. Zombie Dice. This is a hit with the family. I've got over 20 plays of it. You are rolling dice, Yahtzee style. Well, not Yahtzee style, but you have 3 dice that you're rolling at a time out of a container. You have brains, you have feet, and you have shotgun blasts. If you get a number of brains on your rolls, you can score them as points. If you get shoes or feet symbols, that means the human is running away from you because you're a zombie and you're trying to eat their brains, because that's why it's called zombie dice. You can re-roll them with multiple other dice as long as you have 3 at a time that you're rolling, and seeing if you're going to score. It's a push your luck element to get more brains. If you get a shotgun blast, you are assaulted by one of the humans that you're trying to eat. If you get 2 shotgun blasts, you're pushing your luck on keep rolling these dice. If you get 3, any scoring of brains that you've got so far go away, and it becomes the next person's turn. So push your element, push your luck element. You can keep the points you want. The first person to score 13 brains or 13 points wins the game. Number 75. The score on that. I give it an 8. Board Game Geek gives it a 6.098. 75. Betrayal on a House on a Hill. What you're doing is you are going through a house that you are building as you go. Each tile has either the bottom floor, medium floor, or the main floor, or the attic. And you are collecting cards called omen cards or equipment cards. And every time you get an omen card, you're going to roll a lot of dice. And if the dice number meets or is lower than the number of omen cards that are out totally, then the haunt happens. One person is reading the betrayer cards, the betrayer booklet, and the others are playing the survivor booklet. This happens if the omen card and the room card intersect on a chart that's in the booklet, and you will both read the same passage. It is not a perfect game because there's some kind of scenarios that don't work well, or if you're not completed with the building of the house itself, then certain elements don't take place. The first time I played this with my friends, certain elements that they needed weren't available to have me as the betrayer stopped, and but they still won anyway. So it's an excellent game. I want to keep playing it, but like I said, if describing it to someone as, say, a Clue type game, but you don't know who the betrayer is, kind of throws them off. So I give it an 8. Board Game Geek gives it a 6.891. This is going to be 74. Elder Sign. This is a fantastic game. It's the Arkham Horror Cthulhu themed game that you're rolling dice such as Yahtzee, and each room that you're in, you are in a Mesopotamian museum, and you are trying to stop the Elder God from coming into the existence, and you're trying to stop him using Elder Signs, hence the name of the game. You are fighting off monsters, collecting items, rolling dice, clearing out rooms, going to other worlds. It's a fantastic game. This is another one of my games that if I was stuck somewhere, or if I had to play this game solo, I could, because it's that fun. I also have the app, but I don't count the apps. I give this Elder Sign an 8. Board Game Geek gives it a 6.857. Number 73, Mage Knight Dungeon. This is a 2002 miniature style skirmish game where you are fighting through a dungeon. This is the solo variant of the Mage Knight game system that came out in 2000. You are going through a dungeon, and you are actually leveling up your character, unlike the other Mage Knight where you do not. This is not to be confused with the Mage Knight board game, which came out in 2015, I want to say, which I do not own. But you can probably use those characters from Mage Knight Dungeon or Mage Knight itself using the click system. The dial has your statistics on movement, speed, damage, movement, speed, movement, damage, range, and special abilities that are color coded on the dials. As you take damage, you're going to click the dials down and it'll show your abilities getting weaker or special abilities showing up. If you level up in Mage Knight Dungeon, you actually click your base all the way back up to its maximum or next level up, so you're stronger again. It was fantastic. I played this game probably about 10 times itself. I give it an 8. Board Game Geek gives it a 5.857. 72. Dungeon Roll. This is a box game I backed on Kickstarter. You have dice that generate the dungeon and dice that generate the heroes. You can play it single player or as many as you want. The more players will slow down the game, but you'll have one person rolling the dice, the black dice generating the monsters based on the level of the dungeon, which is denoted by a 10-sided die. The goal is to try to do as many dungeons as you can. You're rolling your player dice, which have different classes on it that will defeat the dungeon dice, or the black dice of the different monsters. You can get treasures that are held inside the storage box, or the box that comes in, and each token will represent some kind of hero item that will help you along the way, or you can turn them in during the time to count as dice sides. It's a really good game. I played it at least 10 times. I give it an 8. BGG gives it a 6.003. 71. This is Star Realms. Heavy deck builder that I got into. I did not kickstart this copy of it, but I did kickstart the Frontiers edition of it, which can be combined. Being a deck building game, you'll have the trade row of the main deck, and you have your starting 10 cards. You're using those cards to purchase other cards to make your deck stronger. You're using attack points to attack your opponent's authority. The first person to 0 authority loses. There's 4 different factions in the game that allow you to combo from one card to another, so that's pretty cool. I give it an 8. Board Game Geek gives it a 7.473. 70 is Ascension Apprentice Edition. I don't own a regular Ascension yet, or haven't played it yet, but it's pretty fundamentally the same. The Apprentice Edition just gives you, instead of a cardboard board to play your cards on, it gives you a paper mat with the rules on one side and the gameplay. Another deck builder where instead of attacking each other, you can purchase or attack creatures that are in the row to gain victory points. First person to get 15 victory points wins. You can also use other cards to build your deck as a regular deck builder. Or you can use other cards to stop your opponent from drawing so many cards up. I give it an 8. Board Game Geek gives it a 6.141. 69. This is a HeroScape Master Set, Swarm of Morrow. And it's expansion, but standalone game of regular HeroScape, I believe. Well, you are time travelers from different realms that have different factions, and you are creating your map or having predetermined map as you go. You're rolling dice that are equal to the values on your cards. Attack and defense, they each have a side for attacking or defending. When you're attacking your opponent, you have to get so many swords equal or greater than their shields. Greater than their shields, not equal. And then you'll do a point of damage to those heroes that he has on his team. Eliminate all of his heroes on his team, and you win. And I give it an 8. Board Game Geek gives it 6.799. Number 68. This is Summoner Wars Master Set. Summoner Wars is playing like chess. You have a faction that has a set of cards. You can deck build where you can modify what's in the deck based on the rules, and you are playing cards to get your champions out on the field or minions, and you are battling the other person's summoner. First person to defeat a summoner wins. With this game, you can buy as many factions as you want and not worry about having to have duplicates, because each set that comes out has its own faction set, but can be combined with previous sets. So you can have different minions in different sets, or different champions in different decks. I give this an 8. Board Game Geek gives it a 7.287. Number 67. This is Sorcerers of Magic Kingdom. This is a board game where you are playing cards that you get from Walt Disney World. You will go to Walt Disney World and go to the fire station or one of the other places, I forget at the present time, and you will get 5 cards. There are magical portals around Disney World that you will play these cards, defeating different villains. Every day you can go back and get another free pack of cards. If you have multiple people in your party, they can also give you different cards to boost it up. You can buy the pack of cards that has you have one villain in one of the sets and 7 additional cards, and you are playing to defeat that villain using special energies that are located on the cards. And that's that. It's a great game. Trying to get more cards for it. The only way you can find them is on eBay or Magic at Your Door boxes. Thank you. And play with multiple players. You can be they can help you out using the same energies that you need to defeat the villain dial. And then when you defeat the villain, you win. I give it an 8. Board Game Geek gives it a 5.520. Number 66. One Night Ultimate Werewolf. This is my top game for social deduction. I give it an 8. Board Game Geek gives it a 7.040. 65. Timeline American History. This is a card game where you're playing out cards. You are guessing what time they took place. If you place them in the right order of the time frame that they took place, you will have one less card out of your hand. If you fail on getting the right time and the timeline, then you have to draw an extra card. The first person that has no cards in their hand wins. They don't have to say Uno. I give it an 8. Board Game Geek gives it a 5, 9, 6, 8. 64. Sushi Go. Sushi Go is another social card game that I like to play with my family. You are drafting cards. You have an amount of cards starting in your hand based on the number of players that are playing, and you are taking one of the cards, putting it face down in front of you, passing your cards to the left if you're using that rule, which I highly suggest. And then once you have a new set of cards from the person on your right, flip that card over. Everybody can see what your main item or sushi piece you've gotten. Then you are going to look at your cards that you got from the person on your right, choose one of those cards, place it down in front of you, place the card, give the cards to the person on your left, get the people. That's all you do, and you're putting down cards and flipping the cards and revealing what you have. When you have no more cards to put down, then you count up your points, write it down, and then do the same thing again, doing the opposite direction, which is a rule in the book I suggest you use. And then the next round after that, go to the left. After 3 rounds, then add up your total. Whoever has the highest wins. Another game that seems to befuddle people that aren't familiar with following the same thing over and over. That's my story. Sushi Go, I give it an 8. Board Game Geek gives it a 6.971. I already said that, didn't I? I can cut that out. Lost Legacy Starship. This is a love letter esque game. You have a deck of cards, probably 18 cards, and you are one card in the beginning of the game. There's a deck of cards in the center, and you are looking for the Lost Legacy, which is a spaceship that has ultimate power or ancient relics or something of that nature on it. You can make what you want with that, and you are on your turn just taking a card, looking at your cards, playing a card, and making a small area called the ruins that people can use cards to look at the ruins, and the person that can find out who has the Lost Legacy wins the game. It's just that simple. There's multiple expansions to this game that can be mixed together. Some or more take that elements, and some of them are just cutthroat. It's just cutthroat. Alright, so Lost Legacy, I give it an 8. Board Game Geek gives it a 6.254. 62. Ogre. This is a 1977 version that I have. That you are playing as a either cybernetic tank on a apocalyptic battlefield, which has giant craters in it from a massive war. There is no grass, trees, cities, or anything between you and the other army. And then the other team is using a bunch of tanks and artillery or units, marines, and you're trying to stop you, or you're trying to stop them from getting your command post. That's it. Steve Jackson Games did a fine job. I started with Gev, which I didn't know Ogre existed before that, besides having ogres in Gev, but they only had a Type 4, which is a Panzer, I think, or something of that nature. So, and maybe a Type 3. One of those two, or maybe both. And that was my walk-in on that one. Ogre, I give it an 8. Board Game Geek gives it a 6.399. 61. Spyfall. Another game that seems to befuddle some people or cause them to get angst when they become the spy. Spyfall is a card game that you have a card in front of you, and it tells you a location, who you are if you want to go deeper into the game, and you have to ask a person on your right or left who or what's going on, or what are you wearing today, or just ambiguous questions that have to do with the location or possibly their class, or what kind of job they're doing at that location. The spy, on the other hand, has a blank card that says the spy, and he is or she is deducing by listening to other people what questions they're asking. In the center of the table you have a printout of all the different locations that are possibly in that set. All you have to do is just, if you're a spy, listen closely, or try to hear other people give answers, but also, if you are asking questions and they are so ambiguous that the other person that is not a spy, or you're both not spies, they think you're a spy because the question is just either outrageous because you're not knowing what you're doing, or what kind of location it is, even though it's printed right on the card. I've played this with people that once they become the spy, they just grunt or sigh because the game hasn't even started, so they can straight out lie or just listen to what's going on to make up some kind of weird question and try to deduce where they are. If the spy is the first person to say, "I'm in so-and-so," they win. But if there's another person that deduces who the spy is, they win. That's all. It's an easy game. I like to play it more with the proper people. I give it an 8. Board Game Geek gives it a 6.864. Number 60. Escape Zombie City. I don't have the other original Escape, but you are in a church that is surrounded by roads, and you're trying to find the proper tools to get your van started. Gasoline and equipment and some other things like that. And you are rolling dice in a zombie style fashion, in a Yahtzee style fashion, and you are trying to meet the requirements to go from road to road. So if you need to go from one road to another and it shows 2 running green dice, that's what you need to roll. If at any time you roll a panic die, which is a black like oh my gosh symbol, or a panicked face, that die is locked until you roll I believe a green or gold, and that will unlock that die. Or if you have all your dice locked up, a friend can come over and help you out and unlock your dice for you. And you are battling zombies using the same dice, baseball bats or whatever have you. You have to roll to defeat those zombies. You're pulling them out of a bag and pulling them in certain locations. You have a soundtrack that you're listening to, so every time you hear, normally you hear escape, and then you will frantically roll the dice on as fast as you can, and try to get around the city, trying to find these pieces, trying to find the way out of the city. And then you'll hear bong, bong, the church bell's ringing. You have to run back to the church and get inside the church before you hear the zombie growls kind of thing. And then you'll have a second round to finish exploring the rest of the map and get the items to the van. And then you can escape with the van. You'll have people rolling dice for escaping in the van because you're working as a team. It's a fantastic game. I've played it multiple times. Multiple is usually meaning over 3. I give it an 8. Board Game Geek gives it a 6.118. 59. This is going to be Dragon Quest, 1992 game where you have a dungeon that you were exploring. When you draft your hand, you will take a few items that you can carry with you. Going through Dungeon and Dragon style, you'll have a game master that will set up a scenario for you and battle creatures and the like. I haven't played it in a while. It's sitting over there gathering dust, but it's still high on my game ranks. I give it an 8. Board Game Geek gives it a 5.577, probably because it's an older game and other games have really succeeded over this one in the manner of dungeon delving. I'm going to get a hate for this game. 58. Zombie Flux. Flux is not drawn in by other players as much as it should or could, or it just doesn't do something that they want the game to do. You are playing cards from a deck of cards. You're taking one and playing one, and you can have different rules and place those rules down, and that becomes a new rule. And then you'll have keepers that you will keep in front of you, and then you're using the keepers to meet the goals of whatever the main goal is, which can also be changed during the game. So it says that you need to defeat a zombie with 2 baseball bats or something of that nature, different combinations of different things. And if you meet that requirement, you win the game. But if somebody puts down that you have to have electromagnetic gun wave to defeat a zombie, then you'll need those 2 items to win the game. It's a frantic game. You can combine Flux with other Fluxes. So I like this game a lot. I've played it only twice, but it still has that I want to play it more kind of thing. I give it an 8. Board Game Geek gives it a 5.640. The next on the list is 57. This is a 1-deck dungeon. It's a Kickstarter that I backed, and you are using cards to go through a dungeon. There's going to be 4 doors that are out, and when you flip the cards over, you are meeting or beating the goals that are on the cards. So if it's a monster and they need certain dice that you're rolling based on your character's attributes, once you roll those dice, then you put those dice on the cards, and when you fill up those slots on the card, you defeat it or take the damage of whatever it is that's on the card on your character. But once you do defeat it, you can take that card and use it as experience points or as extra attribute points or as a special skill on your character. So when something else happens, you can use that extra skill or extra dice or whatever have you. And I give it an 8. Board Game Geek gives it a 6.820. Next on the list is also a Kickstarter, 56. 56 is Villages of Valeria. You're building a city, and once the city is being built using resources that you are drafting on the back of your capital, once you use those resources, build buildings, and then you're trying to get the favor of other heroes to come to your village, and each hero will have a certain requirement that your village has to produce to get that. After a certain number of rounds, you can count up your points. Whoever has the highest wins. But also on your turn, if you do something, the other players can do it, but not as good. So say if you're trying to build up resources, and it says that you can draw 3 cards off the main deck, then the other players can draw 1 card off the main deck. Or if you go to construct something, the other players can construct something not as powerful? I don't know, something like that. Also, you can use coins on other person's resources to use to make your stuff. But once those coins have been given to you, they won't be given back to the player who gave you the coins to use them. So that's kind of cool. I give it an 8. Board Game Geek gives it a 6.488. 55. This is Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Rings deck builder game. This is a deck builder, of course, where you are playing cards, a base set of cards, on a path, and the path has allies or enemies that you have to defeat to gain them into your deck to play better cards. And the main goal is to defeat a stack of arch enemies, which are more powerful, and every time you reveal a new one, something kind of will affect both players. But at the end of the game, they're worth a lot of points, so it's better to defeat those arch enemies as fast as you can. But it's also nice to have your own character who has one additional card based on who he is. Use their special power or something to affect the path before your opponent also plays stuff. In the sense of being a deck builder, you are building your own deck, but you also have cards that will affect the other players using the one ring corruption type thing. And corruption could be used as additional cards in someone's deck to thin it out. So when you're drawing up new cards and you have corruptions in your hand, they can't be used for anything because they're worth nothing. And at the end of the game, they're worth negative points. So it's good to use cards to get rid of your corruption or to cull your cards. I also have the expansion or standalone game of the Two Towers. It's a fantastic game. I like to get it to get a table more. I give it an 8. Board Game Geek gives it a 6.129. 54. This is Gev. This is what I talked about previously. Gev I got introduced to back in, it says 76, 78, something of that nature. You're playing as the Combine or Pan-European, and the maps are hexagonal with different terrain. You have a point value to build your army, and you can also have an ogre on your team if you wish, if you have enough points. And it's a combat simulator game where you're rolling dice, but you're basing it on the ratio of the attack versus defense, unlike other games. I played that multiple times. I got 11 down here, but I think I played it more when I first got the game too. The quality back in the day was just paper chits and paper mats, but that was the quality back then. I think it cost me $7, so it wasn't anything. Well, I technically didn't buy it, my father did. So I give it an 8. Board Game Geek gives it a 6.042. 53. I just played this yesterday. Clank, a deck building game adventure. You are using cards to build your deck to gain either extra skill points or movement to go into a dungeon, diving deep into a dragon's dungeon to get the best treasure. Get the best treasure and get out. Every time you play cards, you are creating Clank, or buying certain cards give you Clank, and you will take your wooden cubes and put them on a flag which says Clank, and that is the noise that you're creating when you draw cards into the row where you're purchasing them. If there's a dragon symbol, the dragon attacks. You take those cubes, put them in a bag, shake the bag thusly, and pull the number of cubes out based on how, depending on the dragon track, you'll see how many cubes to take out of the bag. The cubes will represent black, which would be the dragon, and the number of colored cubes of the players, and those will be put on the damage track of the players' characters. Once the characters' life points reach the skull, that character's dead, and everybody else is racing out to get to the outside of the dungeon. Yeah. When you reach the outside of the dungeon, you'll take a master token, and that's worth 20 points automatically once you leave the castle, and then every turn after that, that player won't take any damage, but the other players will be taking more damage from the dice that are being taken, the cubes that are being taken out of the bag from the dragon attacks. And then at the end of the game, you total up how many points you get from the tokens and the treasures that you've taken and other cards that you've bought or purchased, and they have a little green gem in the corner, and that's the points. 52. This is Dark Tales. This is a risky art style, press your luck, take that element game where you're playing as fairy tale characters or something of the like, and you're playing cards to get extra points. That's pretty much the goal of the game, is just getting points. Sometimes it'll have you playing cards that will have your princess meet up with a prince, and that'll give you points, or being an old man that takes care of certain things. There is day phases and night phases. So if there's the Night King out, that card will reflect cards that you're playing that'll give you extra points. Or if there's the Day King out, that also reflects. So it's a quick and easy game. Like I said, the artwork is a little risque for a younger audience, but it's top quality art, I can say. I have other expansions for it, but the base game alone is pretty cool. There is the Cinderella, where you're trying to get your cards to play as trying to get to the ball and getting, her glass slippers and stuff like that. There's the Little Mermaid, where you're trying to do certain things in that expansion. I give it an 8. Board Game Geek gives it a 5.915. And 51, the end of this video. Eminent Domain Battle Cruisers. This is another kind of pressure luck game where you have a set of cards that will represent you battling your spaceship versus somebody else's spaceship, and you are playing cards that will cause people to discard from their hands. In your tableau, you'll have cards that have been played and that can be played. Once you've played a card, it circles around that you can play it again, but you can't play it again that turn unless you have a card that tells you to pick up your cards. It's got a flux style gameplay to it, where you're playing a card, and if you play the same number as another opponent, you go into a war style game, and then you'll gather points, and you'll force people to get rid of cards out of their hands that they can't play for the rest of the game. It's an excellent, a quick game. I'd like to get this to the table more often too. I think it can play up to 8 players. I could be wrong. I'll check it out. And I give it an 8. Board Game Geek gives it a 5.807. that's the end of the list from from whatchamacallit to whatchamacallit to 89 to 51. Hope you like it. Here's the outro. Hey folks, if you like this video, give it a like, share, and subscribe to my channel. You can find me at my Twitter account at Falconashe or Facebook account at Falconashe. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments below, or you can reach me at my email account at falconashes71@hotmail.com. See you real soon. Goodbye.